Good afternoon and welcome and thank you for joining us. I know you have many other options to do this afternoon, so really truly appreciate you spending the next hour with us today. My name is Cindy Jiang and I am the Senior Research Associate in the Office of International Affairs here at Ohio State University. And I'm here with my two colleagues, April and Danielle. And you can read about our bios in the schedule. So I'm not going to go too much into details about who we are. But I would like to know who is in the room. So if you are able and willing, please put your name and your area of expertise and your institution if you are from other institutions outside of Ohio State in the chat briefly. That would be much appreciated. I'm going to give everyone about 30 seconds to respond and review who's in the room. So let's go. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome, Nicole from Columbus College of Arts and Design. Hi, John. So excited you are here. Kelly, Donnie, Grange Insurance. Wow, that's cool. Nikki, I would love to hear more about what you're doing there. Tina, Case Weston. Yes, awesome. All right. Looks like chat is slowing down. So if you haven't had a chance to do it, please continue to put your name and your area of expertise and your institution affiliation in the chat. So as a room, we can kind of get to know each other a little bit. I know our time is very short. So, all right. One more question. I know I'm asking a lot of questions this afternoon. That's my goal, right? So one more question. How many of you in this room know about COIL or virtual exchange? And if you think you are an expert and you should deserve it, then show a heart within the reaction on the bottom. If you can find heart, show a heart if you think you are an expert. And I encourage all of you to be brave. No heart? All right. Well, how about this? If you think you know enough to be dangerous, a heart or smiley face. All right, Stephanie. Love it. Okay. How many of you are here just to be curious, to know more about COIL and virtual exchange? If you can find the smiley cat face, show me the cat. Heart is fine. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Lots of curious minds today. So thanks, Nikki. Thanks, Carrie. All right. This is a perfect crowd for us. So we are here to share some experience with you all today. And I wanted to, this is a very, perfect size room. So we're going to use our PowerPoints to the minimum so we can see all of you, get to know your names as well as your faces. So again, I encourage you to turn on your video if you're able. Thanks, John. We always love to see the smiley, lovely faces in Zoom environment. So, all right. So let me share my slide very quickly. And I'm trying very hard to maneuver my two screens here. Here we go. Can everyone see my slide okay? Perfect. Thank you. So here is what we have in stock for today.
But Cindy, it's showing us the presenter mode. It's not showing us.
Okay, let's try to do it again. All right, how about now?
Perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. So what we have in for the hour today is that we're going to talk briefly about COIL. What is COIL? COIL stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. and what it is and how we are using this COIL Virtual Exchange to expand global learning opportunities for students really at all levels from all backgrounds. And then we're going to focus on one element of the COIL, which is the intercultural learning activity. And Danielle is going to facilitate this activity that both April and Danielle actually used in their classrooms with their students. So you get to really have that hands-on experience. And then the two instructors, April and Danielle, they're going to talk about the courses and sort of as a case study, what they have done in terms of designing and then also implementing the two courses and share some experiences about what they've learned from their, first trial with, teaching COIL classes. And then at the end, we'll share some resources that's available here at Ohio State, as well as, in other areas that you can help you to think about putting COIL into your, learning and teaching. So that's what we have today. Okay. It's not moving down. Let me see. All right, next slide. Can you see my next slide? Perfect. So what is COIL Virtual Exchange? Again, COIL Virtual Exchange has gained lots of popularity in higher ed for over 2 decades, but it really, took off in the past 2 years while all of us are trying to navigate teaching and learning in the midst of the global pandemic. And it really gave us, I was listening to the welcoming opening remarks by Rob Griffiths this morning, thinking about how e-learning has been there all the time, but all of a sudden it gained momentum because of the, kind of context and the, conditions that we are in the past 2 years. I think COIL fits right into that bucket as well, that, there's this idea that we all know global learning experiences create impactful learning for students from all backgrounds. And, for a long time, study abroad has been that main way of, gaining exposure to global learning. And COIL sort of existed in the margin, but it actually, there are a lot of, particularly in language fields, that instructors been thinking about how we can connect classrooms using technology to bringing that global learning and global exposure to students. So COIL is really about that using technology and meaningful curricular design to bring learning, global learning experiences into students without that, physical, mobility involved. So there's this 2+ principle that's, involved in COIL, that it really about 2 teachers, a minimum of 2 teachers, bringing minimum of 2 cohorts of students from 2 institutions across cultures. And the courses are usually designed with shared learning outcomes in mind and with at least one collaborative projects for students from both sides to engage in. And the instructors often co-facilitate the teaching and learning experience for students. And as part of that COIL experience, students really engage in cross-cultural communication and intercultural learning, very intensive experience for students. And for COIL to be effective, a lot of recommendations and research based on research show that for COIL to be effective, needs to be at least 4, 5, 6 weeks in length, but it can go as long as entire semester or 8 weeks. Really the period depends on the project itself. And it can be project-based or course-based. All right. So how does COIL work? COIL, this is COIL Sequence, typically involve icebreaker activities at the beginning of the COIL experience, and then a collaboration project that students will work together with their international partners, as well as a reflection that can be built in throughout the process, as well as at the end of the COIL experience, for students really reflect on the learning experience and the collaboration that they are engaged in. So we are going to talk a little bit more about icebreaker activities because it's an important way to set up the intercultural learning for students so they can be prepared and equipped to engage in meaningful interaction with the students. Oftentimes, strangers meeting in the Zoom room for the first time, you can imagine the awkwardness and the discomfort. So prepping students with these type of intercultural learning activities, so they are able to build the rapport and then build a kind of learning community among themselves is very important first step. All right, Danielle.
Thanks, Cindy. Yeah, my name is Danielle, and I'm a lecturer here at OSU. And I'm just going to walk you through a possible icebreaker activity. As Cindy said, this is something that I use anytime I teach a COIL course, and I use it on the very first day because it's a way to break the ice, to help people get to know each other, especially in Zoom, because like Cindy said, it can be more challenging to get to know each other that way. So basically, we put students into breakout rooms and have them talk about some aspect of their name. And so we're going to have you try this today. Cindy's making breakout rooms for you right now. It's usually smaller groups are better, 3 or 4 people. And we don't want to give any more than probably 10 minutes for this activity. Today, what we'll do is give you 7 minutes. And let me just clarify that you can choose any aspect of your name, your first, middle, last, your nickname, and that you can make this as personal or as impersonal as you'd like. So this should be a safe exercise in which people are able to share at a level that they prefer. And then there are 4, we'll get that image back up in a minute, but there are basically 4 branches out of the center of this where you talk about different aspects of your name, and you don't have to talk about all of them. And I'll just tell you what they are. You could talk about who named you, why this name was chosen for you. You could talk about what your name means to you and what your name means to other people. And again, you don't have to answer all those questions, but those are available as prompts for you as you go through this. And then when we come back to the main room, we'll be asking for volunteers if there's anybody who's willing to share out to the whole group about your own name. And then we'll be talking about what we learned from this activity. So Cindy, whenever you're ready, I think, anybody have questions about what we're doing?
Well, I want to just add that I took a screenshot of that slide with the 4 questions associated with your name and put it in the chat. So if you'd like to download that so that you have it in the breakout room with you, it is available.
All right. So I know we have only, 18 people in the room. So I'm going to give the freedom to you all in terms of unmute yourself and share what you learned. So I think we're going to make it work. A little bit of organized, chaos might work this afternoon. So, so what did you learn about you or your partner about names in this activity? And you can unmute yourself, or if you feel comfortable typing in the chat, go ahead and do it.
Well, Jen and Kelly learned that they were following very similar life paths.
How so?
Jen, you want to unmute, or Kelly, and fill them in on Akron and stuff?
Oh, we had discovered that we started talking about names, and Cheryl is at Denison University. Kelly's maiden name was Denison, and I grew up in a little town, Denison, Ohio. So we sort of all weave together that way. And Kelly and I also talked about how our first names are very boring for people born around our time, late 70s, early 80s, lots of Jennifers, lots of Michelles, lots of Kellys. But I shared with my last name that it was important to me to keep even after I had gotten married, because I'm from a large family. My dad is one of 8 children, and we all grew up in the same small area. So people would always ask me, "Oh, Coventry, which one are you?" Meaning which of the 8 siblings, is my father. And it was just, people really respected my family and the community, and they were very giving. So it was important to me to keep it. So that's kind of what I talked about with my last name.
Anybody else?
I'll share
activity
because,
really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's because I share because I cannot stand silence.
I was
It's a
just going
trainer
to
in
say
me.
that.
Like,
Yeah. I was
I
just
can't-
going to say that the activity allowed us to really chat and meander. But go ahead, Nikki. I think you're on the same path.
I did. I got to meet John. I'm not going to talk about John, but although he saved all his plants from his, which are behind him, which I thought was super cool. And I was telling him how mine were not saved by someone who was a plant person, and they are all now dead now. But I was talking about how my given name is Nicole Marie. It's French. After a French actress. I have never gone by my given name. I have always gone by Nikki, and except we were talking from years, moons ago, all of the men or boys at the time in elementary school that I still know will call me Nicole, which is so weird. But I was the only Nicole, I think, all the way through high school that I knew. There were no other. I know, isn't that weird? I didn't like grow up in a small town or anything like that. But yeah, it's very strange when I see someone at the grocery store call me, "Hey, Nicole," and I'm like, "So and so." I saw you like 40 years ago. But anyway, yeah. So it was fun. It was a nice talk.
Nikki, we have the same. So I'm Nicole Marie as well, but only my very, very close family would call me Nikki. So Nicole is like that's interesting that we had the opposite.
Yeah. If you're close to me, you call me Nick. That is the differentiator. Like only like my super true, they'll call me Nick.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm also seeing similar threads in the chat that, as a child, you wanted a different name or you didn't really like the name. Maybe you still do, some of us. And then also Melinda mentioned that many of us change names to adapt to a new environment, particularly for people like me who are, consider myself as, cultural sojourners. So I travel between cultures. So I may introduce myself differently, have a totally different name. So lots of great things. Thank you so much for sharing, Jen, Nikki, Nicole, all of you, Cheryl. So I want you to switch your, perspective quickly and think about as an educator, as a trainer, as a, developer, how does this activity transcend to intercultural learning? How does this sort of facilitate that intercultural learning for, within, your audience? Did you find this useful activity? What were the things that sort of came up in this, sort of introduction type of activity that you normally don't talk about? Yes, share their backgrounds or cultures. Yep. I'm reading the chats. Mm-hmm. Yep. It starts up the conversation very quickly, but also, give you a quick, easy way, a safe way to build that relationship without having to talk about football, the weather, right? Yep. I find myself in many situations where people want to talk about football, thinking I'm from Ohio State. I know a lot about football, and I am completely ignorant about anything about football. So, yep. And finding ways we are connected. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Kelly. Yeah. So talking about, I think Jen brought it up, how, or Cheryl, that how similar there are stories, behind the names. And that brings out a lot of common experiences we have, even though we all come from different walks of life. So in many ways, and better understanding of where names come from and how common certain names are, yes. And how, in some cases, how different naming conventions are. When students try to have, we try to have activity in classrooms with students from different cultural backgrounds, we were surprised. John Doe is not the only way naming a person in this world. There are many different ways of, naming. Your last name comes from somebody else. Your, last name, second last name comes from somebody else. I had so much fun doing this activity in Danielle's classroom, where there was a lot of students from Turkish cultural background. So hopefully this activity gives you a sense of how intercultural learning is facilitated with, icebreaker activities as part of the COIL learning experience. All right. And then we are happy to share the activity instructions with all of you if this is something that you are interested in, taking into your classroom. Now I'm going to hand it over to, I believe it's April.
Yeah, it's me. And before you share the screen, I can just keep talking to people. So this is the name story activity is one of the first activities that my students do with their partners in Italy. And it does bring up a lot of the same threads and allows students to really share about their childhood, their backgrounds. They get to know each other very quickly. So almost everything that was mentioned here in the chat. But another nice thing about using the name story and the windows into people's lives is that these things then continue to come out throughout our 8 weeks together. We had 7 weeks together this past fall. So for example, when Jen was talking about community and the importance of her last name in the community and keeping her last name, we do another intercultural activity at the end that talks about respect in the community and, how people are seen and what's rude and what is decorum, what's proper in Italy and in the US and trying to cross-culturally compare those and have conversations about that. So it's layered, right? It's a great first activity, and then it allows you to draw back on the things that, were brought out. And in Italy, for example, it is not common to change your name. You're not allowed to change your name legally just because you get married. Women maintain their names. Marriage is not a justifiable reason to change your name. So that's really shocking for a lot of American students whose identity, right, and their ideas of what their family will look like one day. So in any case, that's just a small tidbit, and that comes out over the semester too. So what did we do, right? Last fall, I taught a course. It's Italian 2102. It is the 4th semester of language. It's taught in Italian. It's in the target language. We partnered with 5th year students from the Liceo Linguistico, and so that's a languages high school in Siena, Italy. We did this thanks to some partners in the Office of International Affairs. We send some of our students to a study abroad program, a third-party partner in Siena, and they have some funding from the European Union to facilitate COIL partnerships. And so they helped us connect with this group of 5th year seniors. A high school is 5 years in Italy. Their seniors are the same age as our college freshmen. So you can see how my college freshmen, some of them sophomores, really lined up well with the seniors. Some of you, when you embark on your own COIL, will necessarily look for university partners for different reasons. For us, especially in terms of developing language skills, this is this is a really good path to partnership. So you'll see I included on this slide our learning outcomes. The way that my COIL took place, or what led up to beginning our meetings, was a series of about 3 conversations that I had with my partner in Siena, with the other professor. They're also called professors in high school. So with the other professor, and we co-created these learning outcomes for our students. So these are the 3 that we have, and how we were going to choose activities that allowed us to meet these outcomes. And we established over the course of our conversations, they were brief, but we did a lot of talking and a lot of thinking of how we could make this work for the both of us, that we would meet for 7 weeks. This was based upon their semester and our semester and having our dates align, that these would be partner conversations. These were synchronous conversations in our case. So we were in Zoom like this for 40 minutes a week. They spent time in breakout rooms doing some icebreakers and then other intercultural learning activities that are similar to icebreakers, but a little bit longer and a little bit more in depth. And our collaborative project was a survey that the students co-created in terms of asking questions, designing these questions they would want to ask in Italian and in English. And they distributed widely among their fellow students, friends, and family members, and collected anonymous data about the questions that they asked, of course. And then we did data analysis and post-survey discussion independent of one another because it helped suit what else we were doing in the course. So, so Cindy, we go to the next slide, please.
Sure.
The other thing that I'd like to say really briefly is that we focused in 2102, right? My focus in this COIL was also in intercultural communicative competence, which is a really important concept to distinguish, and Cheryl is here when we're talking about teaching in the target language. So intercultural communicative competence was coined by Michael Byram in '97, and it's distinct from something that our students would develop in English. So in our meetings, because we use 50% Italian, 50% English. The American students, the Ohio State students, were responsible for speaking in Italian, and the students in Siena spoke in English. And this really allowed us to, you can read here on the slide, to create the conditions and to allow for successive amounts of autonomy in students to where they could really approach intercultural competence in the target language. So we do a lot of intercultural competence teaching in our GE language sequence, our first 3 elementary courses, but in our major and our minor and in courses like this and in our COIL courses, we're really trying to help them reach that intercultural communicative competence goal. And I'll turn it over to Danielle. I think that should be, oh no, I had a slide. We'll have to come back to it. Yeah, why don't you just skip this, Cindy, and we'll come back if we have time.
Oh, okay, sure. I just opened my notes real quick. Thank you. So I teach the Turkish Studies courses in the Near Eastern Languages and Cultures Department. And so I've been working closely for the last few years with Dr. Melinda McClymans of the Middle East Studies Center. And we've been experimenting with different ways that we can bring partners in Turkey into the classroom. And so mainly we focused on online discussion forums, but this has kind of developed into a course that is a full COIL course, which is the Virtual Education Abroad in Istanbul course. And we piloted that last summer, and we're hoping to offer it it was a 4-week course last summer. And then this fall, we're hoping it'll be an 8-week course in the first session of fall. So the thing about virtual education abroad is that particularly when it's in a country that might have some security issues, so Turkey or other Middle Eastern countries sometimes, it means that students are able to visit that country virtually if they can't get there physically. And it also kind of opens up, it's more accessible for people who might not have the resources to go abroad. So, and then sometimes, this can be a stepping stone to encourage people who might be hesitant to travel to then take that next step and actually go abroad. So this was developed with a grant from the Office of International Affairs and also with support from the COIL learning community that Cindy and Laura Maynell run. So I recommend that April and I were in. And I just want to tell you a little bit about what we did last summer and what we're planning to do in the fall that worked really well. So in the summer program, we had a lot of guest visits by Turkish scholars, artists, musicians who performed. We had hands-on activities like cooking a Turkish meal. We have virtual reality visits to key sites in Istanbul. People, if we can get them into the classroom in person, which is kind of one of the challenges, but if you can get a headset and people can actually visit the Hagia Sophia, virtually, it's pretty cool. We had an artist workshop with paper marbling, which is called Ebru. I taught them a Turkish folk dance. They did some language learning. So all of this was kind of hands-on, but how is that different from COIL? COIL really is focused on this collaborative international experience. So we piggybacked off of these discussion forums that we had been using in my other classes and added a collaborative component. So you see here that we go from, these online discussions where people are getting to know each other. We do the name activity, etc. We talk about the impact of COVID and that kind of thing. Then we give them a project to work on together. It can be simple, it can be complex based on how much time you have and what you think is reasonable. And then we have this reflection component, which is really important, that when our OSU students come away from that experience, we want them to take the time to reflect on what worked well, what was a challenge, what kind of cultural differences, caused challenges or enhanced the experience, and how did they handle that? And, basically what did they learn? So I'm going to give you an idea of one collaborative activity that we assigned. It was a political cartoon assignment. If you could go to the next slide. Yeah. So, at OSU, we have the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library. It's an incredible resource. And first, the way that we started this was to send OSU students to the cartoon library and have them go through Ottoman and Turkish cartoons and choose something that spoke to them, that they immediately were like, oh, I want to know more about this. Now, these are students who don't necessarily speak Turkish. I do get native speakers or heritage speakers in my classes sometimes, but I also often get students who've never been to Turkey and don't know any Turkish. So they're really focused on the image more than the language. And for an example like this, you can read democracy and translate that pretty quickly into English. And so this is an example that one student came up with. She was really curious about what this meant. And so the first thing we do is we have the OSU students kind of start to interpret this without any background information. Just what do you see? Describe what you see, and then begin to make some guesses about what it means. Then they go to their Turkish peers in the Moodle classroom. We use Moodle for this, and they have a discussion. They share the cartoon and they say, "This is what I see. This is what I think is happening. What do you see?" And so immediately they start to recognize that coming from different cultural backgrounds, different sets of knowledge and experiences will give them different interpretations of the cartoon. So they have a conversation about that. And then the assignment is that they actually need to write up their analysis of the cartoon. So they go from description to interpretation to analysis. And as partners or as a small group, depending on how many students you have, they will write up an analysis. They need to define, translate and define any Turkish. They need to add their description. They need to add their interpretation. And then they need to talk about what they think it means and what they learned from their cartoon. And then, like I said, we walk away from that. We return with the OSU students and ask them to reflect on that experience. In the fall, we have a new partner who's actually an urban studies professor. And she proposed that we do something called story mapping. I'm just going to put the link in the chat. This is a tool that you can use, a free tool for story mapping. And her idea is the students will explore a place in the city of Istanbul together. And it's something they can explore online. And then they put stories that they learn about through their research into an actual map that then you can, click on different parts of the map and get these little stories. So we'll try that in the fall, if that's a useful example that anybody wants to follow. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to stop slide sharing, but then I will, share the slide at the end of the session. So don't worry if you didn't get a chance to take all the notes. I just want to, wrap up quickly and mention a couple of things that both the courses that April and Danielle taught are general education level courses. And also COIL experience can be embedded to any discipline. And we have a really great example from engineering that, they were able to embed COIL into their global capstone and humanitarian engineering service learning courses. Also, COIL is really, working well, as you see from our examples, that language and cultural courses. And then also any, courses that have an interdisciplinary collaborative, approach to the courses. It works very well as well. So there are many COIL examples. I'm happy to share if you are particularly interested in looking at an example from your discipline particular. And then also the other thing is that in the new GE at Ohio State, now that, we have identified 4 integrated practices for the 4-credit theme level courses, and COIL is included in one of those global and intercultural learning integrated practices. So this is something that, definitely can be done at any level, at any, course disciplines. And it can be done as, April have done, that can be part of a regular coursework, or this can be also, project-based, just like Danielle's example, that students work on one project as so as an exam, as an assignment or as a project of a, larger course. And, instructors, even they're partnering, closely on the learning outcomes and then teaching piece. Grading is done separately, so they don't share, so Danielle and April, they grade their own students and their partners grade their own students. And we didn't put too much emphasis on, talking about technology used in both classrooms because we wanted to demystify that this has to be high tech, very, tech savvy courses. The truth of the matter is that, the most common, easy to use technology works the best in these classrooms. So technology is a tool, but it's, it can be very, low tech type of, course design as well. So I wanted to leave some time for the questions and, cut short on the resources. One of the resources we have put together at Ohio State is the COIL Learning Community that is currently going on for the second year. So I'll put a link in the chat so you can read about it, where we bring the faculty and instructors who are interested in designing COIL experiences for their courses. Could be new or could be redesigning an existing course and bring them together for a 4-week intensive learning community where there are lots of ideas exchanged and support for the group. So that's ongoing, and we do offer $1,500 course grant for all the instructors enrolled in that learning community for that. And also there are other funding opportunities available throughout the university, including Office of International Affairs and then the Drake Institute. And maybe there's some in OTDI that I'm not aware of. If you are interested in designing courses, with innovative pedagogy and, technology components in there as well. So I will, I'll stop there and then open up for any questions.
I think this was already mentioned at the beginning, April, but how did you pair up with the professor in Italy? How is that connection established?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lynn. I did kind of mention it. One of the things that I have tried to do and that I encourage other language-focused courses to think about, we have a third-party partner where we send students studying abroad at Siena Italian Studies. And they run really great study abroad programs, but they also applied and got funding from the European Union during the pandemic to support COILs. So they were really the ones who found someone in Siena that they thought that we could work really well with because they're on the ground. And indeed, it was really nice to have her, her, Lavinia, our partner at Siena Italian Studies, serve as the introduction between the other professor and me. I think it's just a great resource to have study abroad partners who are on the ground able to help, right, in this way. There's also, Cindy, I wonder if you can I bet I could put in the chat a website that Cindy and I were looking at just the other day where one can find partners fairly easily.
So I think both Danielle and April, they had a colleague that they're working with, or they, at least they are, in connection. And it's very common in the COIL world that, the personal relationships you have with someone in, another country or a different institution is really important resource for you to leverage. But also there are resources out there, a lot of COIL networks now in the United States and then in Latin America, for example, and also in disciplines, for example, in language field. Where there's an open, sort of a partner matching sources out there. So shoot me a message. I'll post my email there. So you can, if you are interested in working with someone, we can find someone, or at least direct you to resources. And the other thing is that COIL is something that's gaining a lot of attention in Latin American institutions and other universities in Europe. So we are sort of kind of behind it. So, which is great because we have a lot of, good examples to learn from, or, partners we can work with who are more experienced in COIL.
Hi, I just wanted to offer up something if I could. I'm involved in a COIL course for the second time, and we just kicked it off this morning, actually. And we had students post a video of their typical day, like walking to school. And it's nursing students in Norway and 8 students here at OSU. And it ended up being kind of like they were little tour guides. But it really kicked off the conversation of landmarks and things you see on the way to school and what's a typical morning for you. And they really hit the ground running. So the discussion board is filled up and we haven't even had like a Zoom face-to-face yet. So we're kind of doing icebreakers just in the Canvas course. And then we'll meet in Zoom and it's like you already know everybody. And that's another good thing is that their university also uses an instance of Canvas. So it's really easy for us to navigate. The only thing, I've learned along the way is, changing the language and setting your notifications and maybe opening your Norway instance of Canvas in a different browser so it doesn't confuse with Ohio State. Little things like that. We've connected on Teams and we've really noticed that students tend to gravitate towards each other on social media.
Yep.
So they've really connected outside of our course, which is really what we wanted.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that, Kelly. That's awesome. And, like Kelly mentioned, the asynchronous part is a huge component of COIL and Virtual Exchange. I know because of time differences, sometimes it's very difficult to have that synchronous, time together. And a lot of the work happens out, asynchronously or outside of the class time. Students love connecting on social media. And I've heard some instructors had, only used 1 or 2 synchronous sessions, with both side, classrooms, but, the work can be done. And students will connect on their own.
I've also heard that Padlet is a great tool, and I haven't tried it yet, but we might try it in the fall. But if you're looking for a way that students, at different institutions can connect, apparently Padlet is great. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think, and if I could just jump in there, I mean, the asynchronous meetings are, well, not meetings, but like discussion boards and the political cartoon that Danielle does is really fascinating. And I think that our students in Italian would really benefit from reading more of the written word from their partners. And, and we'll look to do that I think I'll look to do that in the future. I think it also depends on the level of intercultural communication you're looking for. And in our case, it was really important that our students would foster a connection with one another that would allow them to go below surface level culture. And that's one of the nice things that sustained meetings can offer. And that's my only reason why I really hang on tight to those synchronous meetings over and over again, is because we are asking them to be vulnerable in a second language. And so knowing who your partners are and being present with them, it's just a really different experience. It's been wonderful for our section of Italian. So when you think about doing it and adding a language component, you just come out with some really lovely personal outcomes and connections for students. And they all follow each other on social media independently. They definitely do that.
We have we are closing on to the hour, so I just want to share briefly about assessment. One of the things that Danielle and April, with their course, we focused on is that as a COIL experience, intercultural learning is, a significant part in terms of their learning outcomes. So in assessing these learning outcomes, we try to, to focus on assessing that intercultural learning piece and intercultural competence as the learning outcome. And we had some really interesting findings where students were able to demonstrate their gains in terms of intercultural competence. So we just put our additional resources in the chat and then the link to the slides we used today. So make sure you download or save the chat. And that brings us to the closer. Thank you so much for joining us today and the wonderful conversations. And please, email us and let's stay in touch.